Hey everybody, and welcome back to GayintheCLE. Today I thought I would go over some weird moments in LGBTQ history. So stick with me as we travel through history.
Hello again, Peabody here, and you're just in time to accompany Sherman and me on another journey into history.
How far back do we go today, Mr. Peabody?
Ah, the joys of grindr. How many times has someone chatted up another person only to have them show up and things not go as planned? Apparently in the mythology of ancient Egypt, it was no different. Men always be scheming for sex and power. So the earliest and oldest ever known chat pickup line was probably used by two male gods in ancient Egyptian culture. One of these stories is from the 20th century dynasty of Egypt and involves Horus and Seth, who quarreled for over 80 years in who should rule Egypt. The legendary figures of Seth and Horus were purported to be both uncle and nephew, and at the time of this story were both still young adults. A fragment of an early ancient papyrus shows how Seth tried to woo his nephew Horus to become the ruler of Egypt. In this fragment, he's known to use the earliest pickup line ever. In this early gay drama, Seth decides to trick Horus into ruling Egypt by having sex with him. Seth attempts to persuade Horus to have sex with him by saying, "How lovely are your buttocks and how muscular your thighs." What Seth doesn't realize is Horus has his own machinations to rule Egypt. And he also really likes sex. And all this was so Horus could be king. I mean, leave it to Grindr to be full of people who claim to be a top when actually they're all bottoms who only want to pretend to be a top. History is literally littered with porn. And no, it's not just an invention of our modern times. From cave drawings to depictions of sex in temples and tombs, we've had porn as a part of our history since man was able to pick up a rock and start scrawling on cave walls. In fact, some of the world's oldest rock paintings have been discovered in Sicily that date back to some 10,000 years ago. These drawings showed two male phallic symbols engaging in sexual activities. In this image, you can see other aspects of hot man-on-man action that were found in other cave drawings. I don't know about you, but that image reminds me a lot of my early college days. No, not actually partaking in those kind of adventures or even drawing them. More about flipping through channels hoping to land on some scrambled porn channel to catch the faintest glimpse of something racy that could guide my fever-furted dreams to new heights of ecstasy. Yeah, that's it. And it would seem that ancient history had their own versions of scrambled channels. Where did you find that video anyway? Hello? Hello? What are you actually doing? Well, olive oil can be used for anything. It keeps the skin soft and supple. Oh my God. Never mind, let's get on with this. And speaking of olive oil, ancient Greeks literally used olive oil for everything. That's right, even including lube for anal sex. We all know that ancient Greeks were really into sex from all the depictions we've seen throughout history. We also know they were very open to the ideas of anal sex and homosexuality. The earliest mention of olive oil as a lubricant came from around 350 BCE. Coincidentally, this is also the time that the first dildo was used. At that time, Greeks were making dildos out of padded leather and yes, anointed them with olive oil. So the next time that you're at your favorite Italian restaurant and you're dipping bread into that mixture of olive oil and balsamic vinegar, just remember what all the Greeks used olive oil for. We've all seen and drooled over the movie 300, right? I mean seriously, how is it not a gay man's fantasy? You have scantily clad men running around swinging their weapons at each other. In the movie, King Leonidas and his army of Spartans were literally not afraid of anything. They stood up against the invading hordes of Xerxes and managed to overcome the odds even at the cost of their own lives. But was there ever any army that the Spartans feared?
No, that's a bit of a problem. See, rumor has it the Athenians have already turned you down. And if those philosophers and boy lovers have found that kind of nerve, then...
We must be diplomatic.
And of course, Spartans have their reputation to consider.
I give you a band of 150 gay couples from Thebes, called the Sacred Band of Thebes. The Sacred Band actually defeated the Spartans and remained undefeated for another 30 years after that.
What is history but a story of men told by the victors? Amidst the chaos and desperation, an army of lovers was born, forged of 300 men, 150 pairs of lovers. The Sacred Band of Thebes were forced to find within themselves a unique fortitude and persistence so that even the most dire moments, one could never say die.
The Sacred Band of Thebes was actually an elite troop amongst the Theban army and was led by General Gorgidas. The reason this elite force was described as sacred was because of the exchanging of vows that were considered sacred between men that created their pair bond. These vows were exchanged in a Theban temple that was dedicated to one of the many lovers of Hercules. For a completely inaccurate but furiously hot representation of this sacred band, be sure to check out this clip of the Sacred Band of Thebes by the company Men.
I pledge my loyalty to you. I give you my everything.
You belong to me now. Out!
So how does being gay make you more masculine? Historians note that in some cultures, homosexuality was not viewed as being effeminate as much as it was a sign of virility and of someone's masculinity. Some of these examples actually include the Greeks as well as the Celts. It's said that the ancient Celts were much more dissimilar than their current modern day counterparts. In ancient time, Celts were known for their sexuality almost as much as they were for their warlike habits. In fact, it was reported in some places that male Celtic warriors were known for creating groups of special friends and freely participating in same-sex relationships. Ancient Greeks mentioned that Celtic homosexuality was probably one of the best things about their barbaric warlike culture. I have to wonder if maybe they brought olive oil over to the Celts. Ancient Celtic men were known to openly prefer male lovers. According to Diodorus' works of the 1st century BC, young Celtic men would offer themselves to complete strangers and would be insulted if their offer was refused. It was considered that sex between men was a very important male bonding ritual. The moral of this story is if a stranger offers you sex, take it, or otherwise it might lead to a war. Maybe that's where gay men today get their attitude from when a guy, especially a stranger, turns them down for sex. Curious to ponder. Speaking of the bonding of men, many other cultures take male bonding very seriously. Take, for example, the Atoro tribe in Papua New Guinea. Here, homosexuality is the norm and heterosexuality is actually the minority. This tribe consists roughly of 400 people that exist by hunting and small-scale farming in the eastern parts of New Guinea. They are famous for a ritual that believes their young men can only become adults if they have a daily intake of semen to properly mature themselves. Science has already shown us that semen is filled with proteins, vitamins, and minerals.
My regimen contains vitamins, meats, vegetables, and minerals. All you have to do is take a big tablespoonful after every meal. It's so tasty, too.
The Atoro believe that people have an individual amount of vital life force, and the highest concentrations can be found in semen. The power is then transmitted between male members of the tribe through acts of sex. This should give a whole new term of the debate over whether you should spit or swallow. You can't keep a good samurai down. Japan is known for one of the shortest lived sodomy laws in all of history. This statute was in place from 1873 to 1883. Samurai warriors who had a long tradition of same-sex lovers mounted opposition against this law and had it repealed. This may seem in stark opposition to what most people know of Japan today, but pre-modern Japan was much more open to the ideals of sex, especially in the areas of homosexuality. Early Shintoism believed that all sexual love is unconditionally good. By 1600 in Japan, things were starting to shift. They'd entered a time of peace, and so samurais weren't nearly as needed. And some of the bonding rituals that samurai did is taking on a male lover to aid them and be a part of their life, just basically become another mouth that they had to feed. Since the samurai were no longer employed, they also became much more poor. During this time, we saw a huge rise in economy, some of which were men taking on the roles of prostitution to help feed their families. This gave many more men the ability to choose between both male and female lovers. From the mid-1700s until the mid-1800s, the government in Japan started to change a lot. The freedom of male-to-male lovers started to take a decline, and thus the sodomy laws became much more of effect. In 1873 is when we saw the last revolt of the samurai warriors to try to get rid of this. As that moved away, we saw Japan take on much more of the more modern ideas that we're used to now when it comes to homosexuality. Why was the Mona Lisa actually smiling? Leonardo da Vinci has given us some of the most memorable pieces of art throughout history. But what you may not know is that Leonardo da Vinci was also arrested twice on charges of homosexuality. During this time, punishment for being a homosexual could result in death, and had that happened, we would have missed out on things like the Sistine Chapel, the Mona Lisa, and some of the inventions that Leonardo created. It is reported that in 1476, just a week before Da Vinci's 24th birthday, him and 3 other men were anonymously reported of committing sodomy with a 17-year-old male prostitute. One of the group of 4 had strong connections to the Medici, and this allowed them not to be charged and were released under the promise of not engaging in any other homosexual acts. Just 2 weeks later, another charge was filed against Leonardo da Vinci, and again he escaped with no complaints and no charges. Da Vinci was not known for any repressions of his sexuality. In fact, he believed his homosexuality fed his ideals of being much more unconventional. In one of Leonardo's many notebooks, there was a drawing of him and one of his male lovers. As a side note to this drawing was Leonardo's own comparison of being in love with him as compared to being in love with a woman. It is also believed that in fact Leonardo doodled throughout many of his notebooks with small drawings of porn, as seen in this image of 2 phalluses with legs. I mean, come on, let's look at the news of today. How many times have we seen artists, musicians, and politicians all escape charges of homosexuality based on their wealth, power, and connections? It seems that history does in fact repeat itself. So there you have it, 7 weird moments in LGBTQ history. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did making it. If you like this video, please comment below. If you're new to the channel, please make sure to hit that subscribe button, followed by the little bell so that you'll be notified every time I put out a new video. If you're a returning viewer to my channel, please remember to give this video a big old thumbs up and let me know in the comments section what you liked about it or didn't like about it. After all, I'm making videos for you guys, so your views, your opinions are very much important to me. Remember, you can also catch me on any of my social media. You can find me on Twitter at RuleGayPagan. You can find me on Instagram at RealKeithSimpkins. And please make sure you're checking out my blog. That's GayintheCLE.com. There you'll find my views on LGBTQ politics, history, music, pop culture, anything else that strikes my fancy. And make sure you're dropping comments there as well. As always, thanks for viewing my channel and this video, and we'll catch you next time. Hubba hubba.